This video is one of the loftiest videos without question on this channel. Due to the high requirement of prerequisites in order to fully obtain the depth of this text, it is advised that a person be familiar with our series on the secrets of Mashiach. A playlist for those videos is available. It is also advised to not assume any understanding at these levels, to be very patient and to listen to everything being revealed here. We will be discussing today the Arizal's commentary on the Tannin, or the dragons. Furthermore, 99% of the people here will not be qualified to truly understand or to receive these types of teachings. That being said, I caution you not to reduce to wheat. These Kabbalistic levels are oftentimes referred to as dangerous, because when dealing with such things, you can bestir supernal judgments. So again, I caution you, the listener, to ensure and check your own heart and make sure you are qualified before watching this video any further. Let's begin. Perush Tannin Shelcha Arizal. Commentary of the Dragons of the Arizal. Sefer Zohar 34b Parashas Bo El Paro. Know because the mystery of this saying is understood, come to Paro. Shemos chapter 8 verse 1. Go to Paro should be written, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought him to chambers after chambers towards one upper dragon who is strong. Many levels intertwine and link from it. The one who is the mystery of the great dragon, but towards him he feared and did not draw near, because he saw he was rooted in high roots above. Sefer Zohar Parashas Bo 34a. In Book 9, Section 3, called the Tannin, it states, Rabbi Shimon said, now it is proper to reveal secrets that are attached to above and below. It is written, come to Paro, Bo El Paro. But it should have said, go to Paro. Lecha el Paro. What is the meaning of come, Bo? He answers, he brought Moshe to the innermost rooms to a very powerful dragon, from which many levels evolve and come down. And what is it? It was the secret of that great dragon, Tannin Gadol. It is important to note that the word Bo is spelled Beis Aleph, and our secret is going to be found if we reverse it and understand it as Aleph Beit, or Ab, hinting to the Partsufim of Abba. Furthermore, we will learn soon why he is called the Tannin Gadol. It goes on to state, Moshe was afraid and approached only the rivers that were at his grade, but he feared the serpent itself and did not approach because he saw that it was rooted in high sources. When the Holy One, blessed be he, saw that Moshe was afraid and that other appointed messengers above could not approach him, the Holy One, blessed be he, said, behold, I am against you, Paro, king of Egypt, the Tannin Gadol, the great dragon that crouches in the midst of the rivers. Hetzkiel, chapter 29, verse 3. The Holy One, blessed be he, had to wage war with him and no other. He said, I am Hashem. They explain the secret of the wisdom of the great Tannin, or the great dragon, that crouches in the midst of his streams to those scholars of jurisprudence who recognize the secret of their master. Rabbi Shimon opened the discussion saying, and Elohim created Tannin Gadol, the great dragon, and every living creature that moves, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind. Bereshit chapter 1 verse 21. This passage was explained, yet and Elohim created the Tannin Gadol is a secret. It is the Leviathan and his spouse. Tanninim is spelled without the yud, because the Holy One, blessed be He, killed the female and brought her up for the righteous, as it was explained. Therefore, only the one, Tannin Gadol, the great dragon, remains, and know that the Leviathan is a kosher fish, as our sages say. Tannin Gadol, the great dragon, is the male Leviathan that remained alive, and it is said about him that crouches in the midst of his streams. There are 9 rivers that he lies in, corresponding to 9 sfirot, Chokmah, Bina, Da'as, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yisod. And there is one river whose waters are quiet. This is Keter. The blessings of the water of the garden, which is Malchus of Atzilus, pour into it 3 times a year. This is the secret of the 3 columns, right, left, and center, of which it is said, 3 times a year shall all your males appear. Devarim chapter 16 verse 16. If they pour in twice, meaning only 2 columns, right and left, the river is blessed, but not as much, because the central column is missing. If only one pours in, meaning either only the right or the left, it is not blessed by it. The 9 rivers, the lower 9 sfirot, receive from the river, which is Kether. Kativ vayabera Elohim es hataninim hagedolim. It is written, and Elohim created the great dragons. Tanninim is written too, Leviathan and his mate. He killed the female and castrated the male. He killed the female, he restricted her light, and is concealed in Tzaddik for the future. This is the Tannin Gadol, the great dragon. He lies between 9 rivers. One river, its waters are quiet, and the blessings of the waters of the garden fall into it 3 times a year. When it is 2 times, it is not as much, and when it is 1, it is not as much. These great dragons correspond to Abba and Ima in Berea, and they are like one. Tanninim hagedolim hem kaneged Abba va'Ima beBriah. Tanninim is written with one unity. And how was it said that he killed the female? Accordingly, the light of Bina, which is Ima, illuminates and leads the structure, and the world was not fitting to enjoy her light. Therefore her light was concealed in Yisod of Abba, who is Tzaddik, who in the time to come will glorify Ima or Bina, who is called Olam Haba, the world to come. The great dragon is Abba, who is called the great Cha'adam among the Anakim. He lies between 9 rivers. They are 9 aspects of Bina, which is Ima, in which he is enclosed and lies between them. His 9 aspects are called dragons over his name. The 9 of Ima are called rivers over her name. One river, its waters are quiet, and the blessings of the waters of the garden fall into 3 times a year. This is the river whose waters are quiet. It hints to the first aspect in the mystery of Kether. They fall in this river. The waters of Gan Eden. It hints to the Malchus of Atzilus, who is called Gan Eden. And how they fall 3 times a year corresponds to the 3 heads of Berea, when the Shefa comes from them. When it comes alone from Abba, it is not as much blessing to this river. When it comes from the aspect of Ima alone, it is not as much. This is the great Tannin, the dragon, who is the first aspect in the mystery of Kether of Abba, entering in this great river, which is in the mystery of the Kether of Ima. He enters this river and is strengthened there and spreads accordingly to his will. He enters, rises, descends, and swallows all the fish in the river. He rules and returns in the river. The intention is that all the aspects of Ima sweeten them in the mystery of the dragon swallowing and returning this, and he enters into that river, and this is what was said. The dragon enters this river, is strengthened, goes and swims inside the sea, and swallows all the fish of many types, and he rules. The Arizal, quoting 41, this dragon, this Tannin, comes into that river, which is Kether of the rivers, becomes strengthened by it, continues to swim and enters into the sea, which is Malchus of Atzilus, where it swallows many kind of fish and rules. These are the levels in the sea that are inferior to him. He swallows them, and they become perfected in him. He returns to that quiet river, and these 9 rivers continue to rise to him, meaning to receive their sustenance, because they receive their sustenance from the quiet river, which is their Kether. There are various kinds of trees and vegetation around that river. It is the first river among the rivers, namely Kether. Let us expound on this completely. Above here we have the Partufim of Abba and Ima, respectively. It was stated that Abba is the secret of the Tannin Gadol, and Ima was the secret of the 9 rivers. The 9 rivers were identified as Hokmah, Bina, Da'as, Chesed, Gevura, Tifres, Netzach, Hod, Yisad. And the 9 dragons were the same for the Partsuf of Abba. An example, Hokmah, Bina, Da'as, Chesed, Gevura, Tifres, Netzach, Hod, and Yisad. To elaborate this further as to why the dragons are inside of the rivers, we'll look here. We can see here from this tikkun that the Netzach of Ima contains the Netzach of Abba, the Hod of Ima contains the Hod of Abba, and the Yisad of Ima contains the Yisad of Abba. The general rule of thumb here is that the Partufim, or the Sfirot of Abba, are contained inside the Sfirot of Ima. With this principle in hand, we can better understand the relationship between the Partuf Abba here and the Partuf Ima here, that one is inside the other. Now, we must understand why the Arizal states that Abba is in the secret of the Tannin Gadol, which are the aspects of Hokmah, and why Ima is in the secret of the aspect of the rivers. It states here in the highlight, he goes on, Harishia Tanninim Yid Gevurot, that the Tanninim are 10 Gevurot, Vayed Yarim, and 10 rivers, Hem Yid Chesadim, and that these are 10 Chesadim, Yid Chevayot, which are 10 names of Hashem, Kal Chavayak Gemonin Yaor, and they are in the river Bazecha Ofan, and the expansion is in Yod, Yod He Viv, Yod He Viv He, Im Chaotiot, with the inclusion of its letters, Ve'akulal, Kemonin Yar, and have the numerical value of the word river. To expound further, it states explicitly that the 10 Chesadim are 10 rivers and the 10 Gevurot are 10 Tannin. It should also be noted in the secret of to have wisdom and understanding, and to understand in wisdom that the Chesadim and Gevurot exist in both sides. One of these are referred to as Tannin Gadol. An example, the Partufim of Abba and its Sfirot, in which it said, Go to Pharaoh, Bo, which it was hinted to Ab, meaning Abba. It is called the Tannin Gadol because Gadol is the aspect of Chesed and hints to the Chesadim that are spreading in this place. It should also be noted that attached to the Partufim of Abba and Ima are 2 Partufim, Israel Saba and Israel Tavunah. This will be imperative in understanding the relationship between the Gevurot and the Chesadim. Let us first address the Tannin Gadol and the river as it relates to Abba. The highlighted section here, he goes on to state, and Elohim created the Tannin, the dragons. From the power of Elohim, Malchus and Atzilus, they were created in Berea. These great dragons, which are the levels in Berea, it said Sfirot, and all of them are called dragons in the mystery of Echeya, because the mystery of 10 is that its expansion equals Tannin, or dragon, like this. Aleph, He Yod He, Aleph He Yod, Aleph He, and Aleph, which has a numerical value of Tannin Gadol, or the Great Dragon. He is called Great to Chokmah. With these keys, we may now understand the fullness of the matter. Know that both Abba and Ima go by the name Echeya, and the secret of Echeya, Asher Echeya. Thus we find here, as it was stated, that the expansion of the name Echeya with the Yud and its Milui and squaring has a numerical value of Tannin Gadol. It has been explained in Likutei Yura that the expansions of names refer to emanations, and more specifically, they refer to the backside as it relates to emanations. Thus we find here the backside, or the milui and expansion of Echeya, of the Yodim, is hinting to the Tannin Gadol, because it has the numerical value of Tannin Gadol. Thus we find 9 Tannins located here. Now, Abba is the secret of the 72-letter name of Hashem, as it is known. And the 72-letter name of Hashem also has an expansion, as we learned, in Yod, Yod-He, Yod-He-Viv, and Yod-He-Viv-He, and its full milui and squaring of the Yodim. This has a numerical value of river. Thus we find that this Tannin Gadol crouches in the rivers. An example, the relationship between Abba and Israel Saba. All of this is in the aspects of the Chesadim and Gevurot that first exist inside of Abba. It should also be mentioned that the 72-letter name times 10 is the same numerical value as Tannin, or Tannin in the river. It was explained in prior videos how the 5 Chesadim and 5 Gevurot come into being and why they are in relation to this. It should also be noted that these 10 Chesadim are in the secret of the 10 names of Yudke Vavke and the 10 names of Echeya, these being synonymous first here in the Partzuf Abba. Now that we understand the secret of the Tannin Gadol as it relates to the Partzuf Abba and the rivers that it crouches in relation to Israel Saba, we should now come to see how it relates to the Partzufim of Ima and Israel Tavuna, respectively. It states below, accordingly he suckles from this place from the nape of a Rikain pin of Berea, who is called the dragon. This is the mystery of Echeya, which equals the value of Tannin, and it is great, which is in the head. And this is the milui of the milui of Echeya when it is expanded with an aleph, and the numerical value here is the value of Tannin. Returning to our tikkun, we now can see the expansion of Echeya with the aleph, as opposed to the expansion of the Echeya with the yud, which had the numerical value of Tannin Gadol. Here, the numerical value of Echeya when it's expanded with an aleph and its milui, we see that it equals the value of Tannin. And for this reason, the Tannin here is not referred to as Tannin Gadol. And this is the female Tannin, and represents the Sfirot of Ima, Chokmah, Bina, Da'as, Chesed, Gevurah, Tifres, Netzach, Hod, and Yisod, as it was explained. The rivers that this Tannin crouches in is found in the secret of Israel Tavunah. It states, in this way there are 9 yods, and every yod is 1 drop, and from every one there was made a river in this way. 10 times Yod, an example, the expansion of Yod, which has a value of 20, is 200. And Yod is 10, and behold, 200 plus the 10 Yods themselves is the numerical value of Ya'ar, or river. Thus, every drop is a river. Thus, we find that Yod times 10 and the Imkalel is the numerical value of the word river. And we find here also the 9 drops, which are the 9 rivers that were hinted at in the Zohar. And 9 times Yod is the numerical value of the word Mayim, meaning waters. And this is the reason why he said he crushed the heads of the Tannin, the dragons, the water. Thus we find the rivers hinted at in Israel, Tabunah, Hokmah, Bina, Da'as, Chesed, Gevurah, Tifres, Netzach, Hod, Yisod. And so we find that these Tannin crouch in these rivers, and the Tannin Gadol crouch in these rivers. And they merge in that quiet river, which is the flow of the Chesadim and the Gevurot, descending from the Malchus of Atzilus, from which it said was the Garden of Eden that split into 4 heads. An example, Abba, Ima, Saba, and Tavuna, which are their kethers. The Zohar continues, when these 4 rivers that emerge from the Garden of Eden separate, that river called Pishon falls into the quiet river and merges with it. Therefore the kingdom of Babylon is associated with this river, for Pishon is the kingdom of Babylon, because Pishon is the first stream of the 4 rivers, and Babylon is the first of the 4 empires, of which it was said, you are the head of gold, and therefore Pishon is Babylon. From the quiet river, all the other rivers sustained and are fulfilled. The quiet river refers to the flow emanating down from the Nukva of Atzilus, and it splits into 4 heads as was explained. And the first head is the head of Abba, and this is identified with Babylon. And this is also identified with Pishon. The Arizal says regarding this, he states here that the name Echeya, when increased by 1, which would be Beit Vav, Kaf Vav, has the same numerical value as Babel, hinting to Babylon, the place of this Tannin. Furthermore, when it was stated, behold, I am against you, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon, Tannin Gadol, that crouches in the rivers, it was stated in this, and though you set thy nest among the stars, Obadiah chapter 1 verse 4, they are Abba and Ima and Berea, which is called Kokavim, stars. Kaf Vav from Kokavim, from the aspect is Yudke Vavke. And from the aspect of Hokmah is Kabim, the remaining Kaf Besh Yud Mem, which has a numerical value of the word Hokmah. And from here I will bring you down, Pharaoh. For HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, no one is able to. But behold, it is written, behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the Tannin Gadol, the great dragon who lies in the midst of the river, saying, it is my river. Because the word my river, Yud Aleph Vav Aresh Yud, has the same numerical value as Erek, and hints to Erek Apim. The river in question here is the river flowing down from the Malchus of Atzilus, which hints to Erek. And this was the subject of the matter. And Hashem said he would bring Paro down from his nest in the stars, Kokavim, where Kaf Vav was a numerical value of 26, and it hinted to the name Yudke Vavke. And here Kabim, Kaf Beis Yud Mem, has the numerical value of Hokmah, hinting to the Partsufim of Abba and Ima, respectively. Now there are a few last things to address. In each river 1 dragon swims, thus there are 9 dragons. Each has a hole punctured in his head, as is written, you broke the heads of the great dragons in the water. Now, it has been explained regarding the dragons that their heads, an example, the aspects of Chokmah and Bina, which are respectively in the secret of head or Rosh. And we learned here the secret of these 9 yods, which are hinted to these 9 drops that turn to 9 rivers. And we learned that yud times 9 was a numerical value of the word mayim, meaning waters. We should also understand in each river there is one Tannin. We learned the first level is that the aspects of Abba settle in Israel Saba, and the aspects of Ima settle in Israel Tavunah. We learned that the aspects of Abba and Ima are the Tannin Gadol and the Tannin, respectively male and female. And we also learned how they crouch in their respective rivers. Now, it was said of our sages that he castrated the male, hinting to the disconnection from the Nukva and Yisod. Hence, the counting is only from Chokmah to Yisod, and it is known Yisod is the reproductive organ. Another clue as to the secret of the word river as it relates to the word Hatanin is written here, and the Arizal says this. The highlighted section, Be'atbash Yaor, that in Atbash the word river is Mem Tav Fe Gimel, Kemonin Hataninin Im Chaotiot, and has a numerical value of the Tanin with the inclusion of its 5 letters. And so we see here that the word river in Atbash is Mem Tav Fe Gimel, and this is a numerical value of Hatanin with the inclusion of its 5 letters. Thus, in each river, one Tannin swims, as they are equivalent with each other. And therefore, there are 9 Tannin, as has been explained. Each has a hole punctured in his head. Now, the hole that is punctured in the head here is the word Nakiv. And the Arizal hints to the secret of them being with the river. We learned the river was the secret of Yod, which were the 9 drops. And we learned how these 9 drops were the secret of the value of the word river. To get the value of the word whole, we take the expansion Yod, and Yud times Yud is 100, Vav times Vav, 6 times 6 is 36, and Dalet times Dalet is the value 16, and 100 plus 36 plus 16 is the value nekev, or whole. From this we can derive why they all had a hole in their head, hinting to the expansion, and how these drops hint to the rivers, which hint to the hole and the Tannin. And so it is written, in the beginning Elohim created, and also Elohim created the Tannin Gadol, the great dragons. In both cases, it is written created. This teaches us that for each action of the 10 sayings, in example Vayomer, there are 10 rivers. And the dragon, Tannin Gadol, blows wind against each of them. That means that one dragon for each of the 10 rivers blows wind against the act corresponding to him of the 10 sayings of creation. The reason being is that the word Vayomer in Bereshis hints to Meyar, or from the river. Thus the 10 sayings in the acts of creation hint to 10 rivers, as was just suggested. We also now know that the word river in Atbash has the value of Hatanin, the dragon. Therefore the world shakes once in 70 years, since everything in the river shakes when this great dragon raises his fins and shakes. The whole world shudders and the earth trembles, for they are all included in the great dragon. Now, the 70 hint to the lower 7 Sfiroth of Zerainpin. And to fully understand this matter, we must understand that Zerainpin is also called a dragon. The Arizal states, in the beginning Elohim created, And it is written, and Elohim created the Tannin Gadol. In all of Maaseh Bereshit's 10 sayings correspond to the 10 rivers, and 1 dragon shakes the wind, which hints to Zerainpin, who shakes within Tiferes. The 70 years hint at his 70 names. He shakes the universe. Malchus is called universe. Accordingly, the dragon, which hints at Zerainpin when he rises his fin. They are his wings, which are chesadim from the right side, because the left side are called scales. Then all the rest of the dragons are gevurot, which shake, and the entire universe shakes. All of them are included in this great dragon who is Zerainpin, who is chesed, which sweetens in Tiferes. Now to understand how this occurs, know that Abba and Ima create the brains of Zerainpin. Thus his Kether, Chokmah, and Bina are formed from the following partsufs. Kether is connected with the Shefa and the flow from Erech, and Abba and Ima are associated with his Chokmah and Bina, and they pool inside of his Da'as, the 5 Chesadim and 5 Gevurot. They are mentioned here in Vayadas Es Hashem. This was taught in prior videos when discussing the secrets of the Mashiachim. But we find that there are 5 Chesadim and 5 Gevurot from the aspects of Abba, as mentioned here, and 5 Chesadim and 5 Gevurot in the aspects of Ima. He states that these are hinted in the 10 names of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei and the 10 names of Achaya. For Yud-Kei Vav-Kei times 10 has a numerical value of 26 times 10, or 260. Yod is 10, Hey is 5, Vav is 6, and Hey is 5. While Achaya has a numerical value of 21, Aleph is 1, Hey is 5, Yod is 10, and Hey is 5. And collectively, the 10 are the value 210. 260 plus 210 is the numerical value of Ayin Tav, of Da'as, which is to say 470. Hence, the 5 Chesadim and the 5 Gevurot pool themselves here. We can here see a representation of the 5 Chesadim and the 5 Gevurot inside of Da'as. These in turn spread through Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, and Hod, and then they pool themselves inside of the sphere of Yisod. The same thing happens with the Gevurot. Respectively, we find the 10 names of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei and the 10 names of Achaya, and we see beneath Reish Yod and Reish Samek, the numerical value of their totalities, 260 plus 210, and they pool inside of his Da'as, which is to say the Ayin Tav, or the 470. Now they are 5 in number because the 10 Sfiroth respectively form 5 Partsufim. Kether is Zerainpin, Chokmah is Abba, Bina is Ima, Zerainpin are the lower 6 Sfiroth, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, and Yisod, and the Nukva is Malchus. And so we find that these 10 names form 5 Partsufim, and the same thing happens with Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. And these are called the 5 Chesadim and the 5 Gevurot. And they enter in and spread through the body of Zerainpin, which is what it was hinting at. Now it said, from his left side come the scales. These scales are hinted at in the Partsufim that are adjacent to Zerainpin, namely the Partsufim of Leah, Zilpah, Rachel, and Bila. Chaim Vital states in Eitz HaChaim that Arizal, or with iron, are hinted at by Bila, Rachel, Zilpah, and Leah. And so we find that the outside of the Leviathan, as it was described in Job, his scales were like iron, and this was the left side that the Arizal hinted at, or the outside of Zerainpin. The spreading of the Chesadim and Gevurot spread through the lower 7 of Zerainpin, which then causes the world to shake. The whole world shudders and the earth trembles, for they are all included inside of this great Tannin, as we now have learned. And the earth was without form. Rabbi Shimon said, The friends are familiar and occupied with the works of Bereshit of creation, but few know the works of creation as alluding to the great dragon. We learn that the whole world evolves and comes from the fin of that great dragon. Therefore, we must understand how he is alluded to throughout the works of creation. Come and behold, it is written, and the earth was without form and void. We learned that it was earlier, namely, it was formless before the correction began, and it has been explained. When the great dragon enters the first river, namely the quiet river, it becomes full. It swims and extinguishes the sparks that were gathered in from the worlds that were destroyed earlier. Those other dragons that we mentioned were and were not, for their illumination was not revealed in them, so it is as though they did not exist. This is so because their strength was weakened, so they would not destroy the world except once every 70 years, when they grow strong from the power of that great dragon, which alone grows strong. If his female had been alive with him, the world would not have survived them. The great dragon, as we know, refers to Abba, and his female refers to Ima. And they descend into the quiet river, which extinguishes the sparks. This is because Zerainpin is disconnected from Chokmah and Bina, or Abba and Ima, and so it was said that his sparks were extinguished, or his head was bruised. When the Chesadim and Gevurot enter into the brain of Zerainpin and spread through his body, then the destruction begins. Now, this will conclude this part of the secret of the dragons. At the beginning of this video was shown a QR code and a link to a free PDF copy of Likutei Yira, or Book 9. There are also physical copies available on bookbaby.com and amazon.com. Some of these mysteries are further expounded inside of this text. With that being said, this concludes our lesson today on the Perush Tannin by the Arizal. Shalom, Selah.